It's great to be back in New Thought, Philadelphia, as it always is. Hi, Bill. Good to see you too. So, I've been thinking a lot. It's springish. Doesn't quite feel like it out there in the Philadelphia region at the moment. It's a little on the chilly side, but it is springish. And so that brings together the gardening metaphors of New Thought and spirituality. And that's pretty much what I'm going to talk about today. So, I don't know, is anybody out there a gardener? I've managed not to kill my spider plant for over 15 years. So I'm going to take that as a win. Um, so I want to simplify New Thought just a little bit. So think of it this way. A, a thought is a seed that we're planting. And what it is it's a seed that we're planting into an infinite field that has absolutely everything that it is required for that seed to sprout into what it is. So some of you who are gardeners know that before we get to the sprouting of that seed, some work needs to be done. Often that requires walking through a great deal of manure. To prepare the field for that seed to blossom into whatever it is that you're planting. I'm going to give you a brief example of what that kind of manure might be. So every morning I get up, and as part of my daily prayers, I set myself to be a beneficial presence of love and healing in the world with everybody that I encounter, because that's my sphere of actual control, and a little bit larger on the spiritual influence. But let's go with that for the moment. And every morning, I get off of my purple pillow and I feel delightful and ready to face the world and be that bright light and be the love unfolding. And then I get on I-95 headed for the office. And I usually make it through that with a few bless yous and a few I'm going to bite my tongues on that, and then get off the expressway and end up going to work. And I go to work, and within moments, I find myself, I get to work, and I actually reinstitute my prayer. Just to resettle the mind, to reorient it, to replant the seed that my objective for this day is to be a beneficial and loving presence for everyone that I encounter. And then work progresses. And occasionally, I lose sight of that fact. In fact, I found myself in a yelling match recently at my day job with someone that left me so distraught that I actually had to take a half-hour walk to reset the gauges before cleaning that little mess up. That's the kind of manure that we walk through on a daily journey. You know, it became so. Let me point out that every good, absolutely every good that we can possibly imagine is already present. Why? Because there is only one. And for there to be only one, absolutely everything that we can conceive must be present in this very moment now. The only moment that we experience, this very moment now. So, if to go back to the gardening metaphor, I want to grow flowers. The first thing I have to do is prepare the field. And how do we prepare a field to receive a thought? The first part is you got to clear away the weeds, right? So if you go out to your garden and you look and it's full of crabgrass and thistle and other assorted things that are not what you want to have in this, you got to get rid of them. How might we do that? There are many ways. Take a class, talk to a practitioner. These are very good ways of clearing weeds. Get counseling or therapy if that seems necessary. Begin a meditative practice, affirmative prayer. All of these are ways to clear out the weeds of our consciousness so that we can plant a new seed into the field of that infinite power that can bring it forward in our experience. So let's say we've done that this morning. or have been doing that for many, many mornings. But since there's only one day to live in, this morning would be a really good idea. And we've set the next thing we have to do is really select the seed that we want. So what happens when, okay, we have this brand new intention of being, let's go with love and peace and a beneficial present in the world. That's my seed, and I'm going to plant it. Now, if what I'm actually desiring is health, wealth, and prosperity, this potentially is not the seed to plant. One might consider, in fact, recognizing that the seed that should be being planted for instance, wealth, might be a recognition of the infinite abundance that surrounds us in every moment of every day, right? Because otherwise, it's like planting tomato seeds and expecting to get pizza. You get a part of it, but it's going to take a little work to get it the rest of the way. So once we've got our soil prepped, we've got the seed that we've chosen, and we've planted it. And how do we plant that? We plant it by claiming it. Because if you leave the seed sitting on the shelf, that's where it's going to stay. And I'll give everybody a little hint. New thought is a participant sport. You can't sit on the sidelines and expect to get definitive results. You can, in fact, sit on the sidelines and accept all of the results that you get as the law of averages works in your life and say, okay, I'm good with that. Nothing wrong with that if that's the way you want to be. But if you want to experience a definitive result, you need a pretty concise seed or mental equivalent of what it is that you're expecting to receive. And so you plant your seed, and then you got to take care of it. You water it a little bit. You make sure it's in the sunshine. Needs a little bit of both, rain and sun, rain and sun. And it starts, and then there's this thing that we do. We've set this intention, and I don't know about everybody else, but I'm going to assume it's fairly common. We have a built-in forgettery. And the built-in forgettery will turn around and start implanting other things. So there we are. We've planted a seed for, let's say, prosperity, because everybody likes a little prosperity in their life, you know. So and there we are, and we start doing things that are an absolute direct opposite of experiencing prosperity. Oh, I can't do that. I don't have the money for that. That'll just cost too much. Well, if one has planted a seed of prosperity, what you've essentially done is poured weed killer on it. And it's not going to grow. See, when we plant this idea of the good that we want to experience in the universal consciousness, we have to tend to it. We have to watch our thoughts. We have to watch our verbalizations and our actions and be cognizant that we are needing to be in alignment with the experience of that seed blossoming in our life. So let's say that prosperity is moving on. So perhaps what we need to do to move that idea in our head a little forward and get away from the oh no's and the I can'ts, or worse yet, the I shoulds, to get away from those a little bit, is to turn not only our thoughts to the receiving of this good, but our activities to expressing that same good. Now, it doesn't mean, let's say you want to experience abundance in the level of tens of thousands of dollars. Okay, God says yes. There's no big or small in the infinite allness of God. It all is. And it's doable to the level of our belief. But it really helps solidify the thought and get rid of the heebie-jeebie thoughts and the uprooting thoughts by going out and demonstrating a little bit of prosperity. Doesn't mean you have to go out and buy a new car or new house or a whole new life, whatever. It can be as simple as going out and buying something that you want and recognizing. And look, it could be a Slurpee. It's fine. A cup of coffee. I want the coffee. As long as we do this mindfully, that what you're doing is you're demonstrating the prosperity that is the representation of abundance in our lives by going out and actively saying, I'm prosperous enough for a cup of coffee. Let's go do that. So essentially, we're watering that seed with our activity as well as our thinking. And then it goes on and it starts to, like there's this really weird thing that happens with metaphysicians. You plant this intention and then you want to go dig it up to see if it's growing yet. Thank you, Bill. And when it, and you just have to resist. The universe is already working on your intention. And the less we mess around with it, the faster it's going to appear in our lives in the logical course of events. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of Ernest Holmes. Ernest Holmes once, and I think it's in the book, but I don't know, so I'm maybe paraphrasing, said that the most effective practitioner is not the most eloquent practitioner, is not the most charismatic practitioner. The most effective practitioner is the most persistent practitioner. So, a little bit about prayer, affirmative prayer, or practical prayer, or spiritual mind treatment for those of us raised in RSI, is an absolute statement of something that already is that we know to be. So, we're accepting that God is everything, therefore, this good must be that. And I know that because God is everything, so it must be this good now. That's what an affirmative prayer is. It doesn't require any willpower on my part. It's just a statement of truth with a capital T. And then our powering that with our belief that that's the truth. And then the universe says, yes, we got it. I got it from here, man. Let's roll. And starts developing whatever that truth is. And the great part about that is, as long as we haven't messed with that, it will develop and evidence itself in our lives. That's what we call a demonstration, you know? And the worst part can be is when we start to doubt that because now we're digging up the soil in which we planted the seed, which is why continuing to do a practical prayer again and again to reaffirm our knowledge of a truth that is already existence is how we focus our minds not to dig up the seed that we already planted. Right? And then some people, and I've had this experience, will plant a seed, be fully committed to it, continue on a regular basis of practical prayer. Oh, and Holmes also said, how long do we pray about something? Until it manifests. We don't stop until it's a reality in our life. Then you can stop because it's no longer something you want, it's something you are. But once we've established something and we've continued to pray for it, occasionally we find ourselves standing knee deep in manure and going, why is this happening? I have my prayer. I've been persistent and consistent about expressing myself in the truth that is that prayer. But all this bad stuff, whatever bad is happening again. Well, okay. Anybody here under 12? I picked a really low number. You know? um, we've all had experiences in our lives that are impressed upon our subconscious. And we can start getting second crop events happening because all of that stuff isn't really cleared out. That's okay. Just walk through it knowing that the prayer that you have planted, the seed that you have planted, is on its way to blooming into the desired good. You walk through it. If you're really having problems with that, Do another affirmative prayer. Reaffirm the good that you know is on its way to you is now present, must be present by the universal nature of spirit, and that it is now yours. That's where the little bit of faith comes in, because when you're standing knee deep in manure, it's kind of hard to say, my good is mine now. But this is not always an easy methodology. We have to do a little work for it. We have to set it in motion, because otherwise it sits on the shelf and eventually goes bad. So when these second crop things come up, just go back and clear the ground again. Pull out the weeds, but don't pull up your little idea that's probably starting to sprout by now, and let it blossom into the rest of your life. I call that reprayer. I kind of like that term. So when we're re-praying about something, just remember that each of our prayers is in fact a thing complete in itself, but nothing that has, it's like the seasons. The time that we are experiencing that new prayer in is different than when we said it the first time. So we're not actually doing the exact same prayer, even if you use this exact same words, because you're not the exact same person you were when this talk started. We've all changed and evolved. The planet has gone many, many miles in the meantime, and revolved a little bit and all that other stuff. It's all moving along. So, in conclusion, the last part I want to say about this is one of my biggest enemies is patience. Because I have a tendency to be a little juvenile on occasion and want what I want when I want it now. And that usually gets in the way of my realizing that I already have it. And that can delay the experience of the good that I'm looking for, whether it be health or wealth, or how I express myself in my work in the world, or the relationships that I have, or the depth of my spiritual development. But I know that each one of us has this same power, this same ability to have the entirety of the universe move forward in the expression of the awareness of the good that is already ours. We are blessed. Namaste.